Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. And as always, you are worth being remembered. And I love the new focus of what we're doing here, helping you realize and understand you're worth being remembered. This is coming to you from Cody Loughlin, and he is somebody who also believes that he's worth being remembered, which is awesome. He's a serial entrepreneur, started multiple businesses, was a millionaire. He was a millionaire at 19, and then he's bankrupt at 27, 28 years old. So it kind of gives you a little insight into his journey, but now he's a little bit older, wiser, and has really just focused on helping people understand how to go through those steps. And he had to actually take a second leap after he had made success, go do something that was not just for the money, but for legacy. And that's why we're having him on here. Just incredible. He's been in lots of different countries as far as opening businesses. And if I'm reading this correctly, you're reaching the Inc. 5000 list either already or twice. Is that right?
Yeah, I've reached it twice. That's
awesome, man. One day I'll get there. Anyways, he just realized that he was having a lack of education in the school system, wasn't teaching him what he wanted to know. And so he decided to change his life. And then as a result, wants to go and change other people's lives by helping them become better. He has a podcast. I don't want to forget this. He's got a podcast called The Money Talkers, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And it is, I think I learned more on that, like out of all the money podcasts that I listen to, that's probably one of the best podcasts out there. I think that's actionable, just really clear, helps people understand where they are and where they're going. So go check that out. If you get a chance, you don't have to, obviously, but it's a good, just like what's going on out in the world podcast. Anyway, so go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit more about you and how you got to where you are today, and what is your legacy moving forward?
Sure. Well, listen, Sam, I appreciate you bringing me on the podcast. Legacy tends to be one of my favorite words in the world, and so I think about it quite a bit. It's had a big shift for me personally on the way that I think about things and the decision making that I've done over my life. Right now, as you kind of mentioned with Money Talkers, it is part of that is what we're doing is we're teaching parents how to talk to their kids about money and how to talk to them about entrepreneurship. And one of the reasons that I believe in that so big is because in my story and in my life, the way that I got started was I took a leap of faith knowing that I didn't have life tethered me down yet. Like I knew if I messed it up that I was going to be able to come back from it or learn from it. Or I didn't want to go down wishing that I had taken the chance. And so at 19 years old, I lost my father. He was my closest friend, my coach in 3 different sports my whole life. And it was really a really rough time because when that happened, like I never got to get to that second level with your parents that you have, because, I never got to go have the beer with them. Right. And hear the stories that I wasn't allowed to hear when I was in high school. Right. And so I kind of felt like that was a big piece that I didn't, I never got to experience. And so as I got older, I got out of school and I had an opportunity to, start a company, and I did. And what happened, I had $300 in my bank account. I bought a $500,000 house because at the time you could. They didn't really care too much. And I've also opened up a company. What I learned through that process is I only had 1 month's worth of rent. And in that 30 days is like, okay, well, great. You'll have a grand opening and sell a bunch of stuff. But the problem for me was I was in financial services. I sold mortgages. So it takes 30 days before you can even get a commission to come through if you're good at it. And so we opened the doors. We got in there. It was myself. I had a partner who was nuts as well. And we took off and we went for it. We had an office in downtown Fort Lauderdale. because the landlord took pity on us because we had no idea how much rent cost and to rent out office space. Then we had to go get chairs. We had mix and match chairs that were $20 a piece that we got out of some warehouse in Miami. And so we had all these, we had like a fuzzy orange chair, then like a little green one. And we ended up getting VoIP services, which is internet phones. But mind you, this is 2004. So it wasn't exactly like the internet was cranking along at the time. And all of our business was through the phone. And we only had one. We had one phone and one fax machine. And so there was 3 people that started with us. So there was literally 5 people using one phone, and the whole business was based on phone calls and connecting with customers. And so fast forward 3 years, I've got 30 employees. I've got $1 million a year mortgage company. I've got a real estate company, a construction company, and a foreclosure website. Things are going amazing. I absolutely knocked the doors off. I thought I was like, this business thing is so easy. Right. Had it all I was levered to the hill because I was always I'll just go make some more money. Right. Kept piling up debt. And then the music stopped, and all the employees were gone, and all the companies were gone, and all the debt stayed. And I ended up a year later, $700,000 in the hole. All the companies closed, in foreclosure, IRS liens. I even had more IRS liens coming because I hadn't filed the taxes that I was supposed to file, right? Like no way to pay anything. And then what I found out at that point was I was also toxic in the job market because no one wanted to deal with the mortgage people because it had such a bad connotation of when the Great Recession happened. And so at that point was really when I had a shift. I had a few months that I was in a basic pity party, which is, if you know me, is not conducive to my my lifestyle and the way that I view the world. And one night I was sitting out on my porch looking at the ocean in my foreclosure condo and sitting out there with my wife, and she just looks at me and she says, "What are you going to do about this?" And, something that my mom had said to me my whole life, and it snapped me out of it. And I said, you know what? I know what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to go do something about it. Like, I don't know what, but I'm going to stop sitting here doing nothing. And so as we were sitting there, I said, okay, I'm going to figure out, like, clearly I can make the bell ring. Like, it's been a talent for me, luckily, that I can bring in leads. I can convert leads. I can bring revenues no matter what business I walk into. But I had to look in the mirror and realize I had no idea how to run a business, like zero. I never even spent a minute thinking about it. I just always chased more money. And so strategically I looked at it and I said, man, I want to be like, who goes into businesses? Like, who's going to know how a business is run? And the best thing I could come up with was a banker. I was like, well, a banker's going to know, going to go into businesses, right? Like, they're going to look at financials and they're going to be able to have conversations. Like, I'm going to be a banker. And so the next year I spent getting myself into a position to be a commercial banker. Actually, it took me about 3 months to get the job. Moved across state, didn't know where I was going, wife in tow, dogs in tow. At that time we were trying to think about having a family. Also, I wanted to use this step as a way to get back to being an entrepreneur. I feel that building a business is the fastest path to wealth. It's a way that you can have an impact on the world and solve the problems that you want to solve. And so as I went into these businesses over and over, I started realizing there were patterns I saw from these business owners. And once I had kind of got my feet underneath me, I started paying back the debt. I also realized I ran into something called FIRE, Financially Independent Retire Early Community. And I started learning about passive income, and I started learning about, lifestyle choices, personal finance, those kinds of things. And it really got me thinking, I don't have kids yet, but do I want to leave them a legacy of dad had a cool job for a little while, or dad, was, he worked all the time, but he made a lot of money. Right. And I kept thinking about that. And here I was, wishing I was just broke. Which is, I hear a lot of people say that they can't take the leap to chase their dream because they're broke. Well, I'm coming from a guy who is $700,000 in the hole wanting to take the leap. Trust me, I wished I was broke. And so I started just getting really serious about it. I started feeding my mind with really good things. Later, now that I have a podcast, I interviewed a neuroscientist, and the things I found out that the things that you feed your brain, it seeks to validate. So if you're watching, all you're doing is watching news and bad, misinformation, and your brain will start looking for those things in the world. But the cool thing is that you can train it the other way. And so as you're feeding things like listening to podcasts like yours, you're having intentional listening to get motivation, to get understanding, and to see that there's an abundant side of the world, as opposed to, basically having a scarcity mindset that it's not for you. You can't go out there and get it. You could be a business owner, but you're not prepared for it. You're not smart enough. You don't have enough money, all the things out there. If you're feeding those things into your brain's going to seek to validate them. But the good news is that if you have intentional listening, like something where you're listening to your podcast, brain's going to start to validate that, wait, there is a way I can do these things. I can take this leap. I am smart enough. I do have enough money. I have enough sense to figure this out, because if somebody else can do it, so can you. And I teach my kids that quite a bit as we talk about pieces of legacy that's really, being intentional with that. And so as I thought about this, the way I was able to get out of this hole and to get back into being a business owner again, and to make the hard decisions with money, have the hard conversations with the lenders that I owed money to, that I needed to settle out with and make payment plans and do all this stuff that nobody wants to do, was I kept thinking about my why. And my why was I wanted to be retired again before the time I was 40. Why did I want to be retired? Because I wanted to be the dad that went to my kids' practices. I wanted to be the dad that spent time with my family, right? I wanted to be the dad that was going to leave them something that would last, not through just their generation, but future generations, that maybe they have kids and their kids and their kids. And I wanted to leave something. I wanted to shift my family tree in a massive way. And so I was able to go back out there armed with a lot better mindset. We took a company I ended up buying an RV dealership. When I got there, we were doing $9 million a year in sales. Fast forward 6 years later, and we were doing $51 million in sales, and we sold to a publicly traded company. Along the way, started buying real estate for passive income. I paid off all of my debt that I owed, and I retired again at 39 years old. Now, I'm not put your feet up on the table and stare at the ocean retired, because I don't want to be that. I don't like that. I get bored. I can't turn it off, right? And so at this point, I've opened 14 companies total. 10 failed miserably. 4 have done 7 figures or more, over $200 million in sales total. And I'm a regular guy, man. So if you're listening to this and you're on that step, right, and you're like, you want something, you need to first figure out what it is that you want. Second of all, why you want it. And then remind yourself of that repeatedly until you can't stand it enough that you go do these things and you go do the preparation, right? People might say you got lucky, and luck is where preparation meets opportunity. The problem that most people have is they have opportunities consistently throughout their life, but they don't prepare to take advantage of them. And so if you're on that step, there's a way to get to the next step, and it's your job to take control and to go do those things that you need to do to get to the next step. That's the main thing, is that as people look at trying to build a business, they look at it as an elephant, and the old saying is like, eat an elephant one bite at a time. You can't eat the whole elephant, right? But you got to, if you don't start biting, you never ever get to eat the elephant. And so that's really, at this point now, I have 3 companies as I'm retired. I'm currently in the middle of selling one of them. That'll close hopefully here, end of the year. We're in the middle of December right now. So I'm looking at actually it's going to close the first part of January. I'm excited about it because I'm going to continue to build the next thing. And the next thing is, I've been building Money Talkers this whole year. I wanted to shift not just my family tree with it. Then I got the ideas that I wanted to shift everybody's family tree. And so it gets contagious if you start thinking about legacy. It is a driver for the decisions that we make. It also gets you out of bed sometimes if you need that kick in the butt, right? and it helps you. I think when you keep that as a mindset, it helps you with the language that we use with our kids, because I believe that the words that we use have massive power. It helps you with the decision making that you make with your kids and the understanding. And I really believe that it gives you some of that self motivation that you need, because entrepreneurship life is tough. It's not an easy path, but it's your path. That's the way I've always looked at it. I don't want to walk somebody else's path. I want my path.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't know what I would do without being an entrepreneur, because I've tried other things. I've tried working for other people, and it doesn't have problems with authority, I think. Or at least I like to be more creative than traditional employment allows generally. And so it's like, I don't know if that will ever work for me. I'd rather be broke and work for myself than earn a bunch of money, but not have control over my life and what I'm doing. It's not about money for me. It's about who do I want to become, and how am I learning to become that person?
Yeah. It's, I've been a VP twice in Fortune 500 companies. I've worked it to that spot. The last time it was a dream job. I was 2 seats from the CEO. I'm under 40. It was a dream job. And I had to walk less than a year. I couldn't take the constraints of not being able to, when I see something that's broken, to try and fix it. And I just couldn't, they wouldn't let me. It was like the accounting team gets in the way, or the one of the other side managers gets in the way. And it's just, I couldn't fix things anymore. And I'm so used to doing that. And I just enjoy that part of my work, that, it was like, no, come in, do what we want you to do, and then leave. I'm like, I can't do that. When I come in and I see something that's broken or needs to be better, or we could help somebody or whatever it is, let's go do that,
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was, one of the things I wrote down, and we may end up working backwards here, but, there's so much that I don't think we're going to have all the time to cover it. So, if you want, him to come back and we can discuss the rest of it, then say so. Reach out to me, put in the reviews, something, because I know I'm not going to get to all of this. But one thing, I was talking to a friend the other day and said, how do I show that I'm ready for leadership? How do I show that I'm ready to be a leader in a team or in a company? And I was like, well, honestly, right now you have your feet in 2 different areas. You've got this potential employment or job that you want to do, and you've got this other job, and you can't go full leadership in either one because you want both. And just the mind separation of both. What are you going to do? Be a leader in one, and then every 6 months just completely ditch your team and ditch everybody, and then go build this other team, and then every 6 months, that's not going to work long term. So I was in a similar position. I did summer sales, and I was thinking, I want to do something else. The money in summer sales, really good money, but 1, it wasn't how I wanted to be remembered, and 2, it wasn't really conducive to the lifestyle that I wanted with my family, my church, and the things that I wanted to be doing. So I had to make a choice, take a pay cut and build another business rather than do something inside of somebody else's wheel where I was making great money. So that was part of the conversation. And the other part is exactly what you said. A leader, when they come into an organization or into a team, when they see something that could be better, their natural instinct is to be accountable and go do it, and to actually seek to just, hey, I'm going to go find a system that's better than what's going on here. And then once I find it, then I'm going to propose it, and we're all going to start doing this, or at least I'm going to start doing this. Well, somebody who's just responsible they're just going to sit there and wait until they're directed to do something. So in the corporate world, responsible people are fantastic because that is what they want. They want you to fulfill your role, be responsible, make sure you get done what we tell you to do, but don't be creative. In the entrepreneurship world, you need the opposite. You need somebody who's focused on growth, focused on how can I optimize this? How can I make it better? And so I was like, well, that's honestly the thing that separates, one thing that separates you from the leaders is that mentality of like, how can we make this better? How can we optimize? How can we improve it? The other thing that I recognized in conversation with him, and I'm curious your position on this, like, because I have no idea. I know for myself, because he's like, well, how do we find more people like you, Sam? How do we weed out and make sure we're finding more people like you for a team? And I was like, well, I don't know. So I pulled up my budget and I was like, here's just some hard questions. How many of you, like, are you or are your team members, are you going to go and spend $50,000 into developing yourself and developing your person every year and your business? Most people, they think that that's really expensive and they don't want to go invest that much money. They're like, oh, well, we could do this so much cheaper. And they try and cheapskate stuff rather than going and get the help they need. And so I'm curious from your perspective, how much of your efforts over the years has just been like personal growth and development cost that most people aren't willing to do. They just wait until something free comes across the table or an opportunity rather than proactively seeking growth.
Yeah, I would, there's one of the words I'm going to tell you earlier that becomes powerful, right? And in what you said there is that you have a different mindset about what's expensive, right? So if something costs $50,000, but you're able to build a business that produces $150,000 a year for you, is that expensive?
I think it's great.
It's absolutely. I'll trade it all day long. If anybody out there wants to give me 150 grand for 50, I will meet you wherever we want to go. And so, but it's really, it's really a mindset piece that you have to have a shift. And so one of the books that has had a major influence on me as I've had growth throughout this thing is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in there, there's a part talked about your paradigm. And that word, as it's mentioned earlier, legacy is one of my favorite words and paradigm is another one. And so the way that you see the world is not the way the world is. And I'll give you an example. If you've ever read a book that's had a lot of influence on you or that you just really enjoyed or gave you a mindset shift, and you've ever read it 10 years later, you will get something totally different out of the book. Did the words change? No. The way that you read, the way that you see the world will change. And there's an entrepreneurial ladder out there. And as you talked about taking that step and becoming an entrepreneur, it generally is because you're a problem solver. Like you want more, right? You want to do more, you want to give more, you want to build. And there's a really, really good traits as someone is taking a step in the beginning. So there's usually like a level though, and it starts to happen as you start to generate revenues. Like you can build a company out of sheer will, right? Just hard work, sheer will. You can make a sustainable, self-employed company, right? Doesn't mean you can be a business owner yet. You can be self-employed though, out of sheer will with no knowledge, right? As long as you have a little bit of skill set and an idea for a business, like you can literally will it to a certain level. At some point though, you have to have a personality shift, which is very difficult because at that point you've got to look in the mirror and say, I don't either know what I'm doing or I need to shift the way that I'm doing things. And so a lot of times to be recognized in that, as you build team members, you don't need to do all the sheer will. The reason is because you're offloading some things, but there's 6 pieces in a business. There's sales, marketing, operations, human resources, accounting, and customer service. Generally, when people start a company, they will gravitate towards 1 or 2, maybe 3 of those pieces of the company. And they would just say, well, I'll figure out the other parts later. I am very much in the mindset that imperfect action beats perfect inaction, right? So a lot of people will sit down and they'll spend a week trying to write a perfect business plan. They're a very small percentage of business owners. Most people just kind of start running, which is, I don't agree with either one of those tactics. What you need to do is stop, spend a little bit of time developing yourself, spend a little bit of time to develop a business plan, and then take your business plan and make it fluid. Because in 30 days after you start a company, you're not the same person you were before you pulled the trigger. 6 months, you're not the same person. 1 year, your paradigm shift and your ability to see where your faults were and to check whether you're basically, it's almost like a big scientific method, right? Like the hypothesis of your business. It's like, this is where I'm going to get sales. These are where my customers hang out. So this is where I'm going to market. And then you're like, yeah, every plan sounds like a great plan. And then you try to execute it. Right. And so, but if you don't come back and review to your plan, then you can't tell where you are, what you need to adjust, and where you need to pivot on stuff. Right. And the reason I brought up why you can get somewhere to a sheer will, and then you have team members, you have to have a personality shift. And I think it's why we're seeing the explosion of the coaching business, because it's much easier for someone on the outside to recognize when you need to have a personality shift, because it's very hard to internally recognize when we need a personality shift, because it's our personality. It's the way we see the world. But as you grow, you have to grow as a leader. And so when you ask about, is it expensive to develop yourself? No, it is expensive not to develop yourself, because that's a broke mentality. It's a mentality of scarcity. Like if I pay for this, I've lost something, right? It can't be that way. You have to have the mentality of, if I pay for this, what am I gaining? What is the value that comes back to me? You know, if I said you could have, I'll give you an example. When I look at programs and I talk to people about these things, and I see that there's 50 hours of training to get an end result. If I could have the same, and it costs $5,000, right? If I can get the same thing on a 30-minute phone call and I end up with the same result, and I don't have 50 hours of video, give it to me. So that half an hour might seem expensive to you, but the 50 hours are expensive to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it just comes down to like what one thing that I love and why I do like in my coaching and why I talk about legacy so much is, what are your values? Like, how do we arrange? So I have a legacy building that I build with people that I'm working with. And that is, it starts with legacy. Like, how do you want to be remembered? It starts with how do you personally, and you had to go through this as well. Even before you had kids, you started thinking, well, I actually want to be remembered by my children a certain way. And if I continue to do what I've been doing, that won't be happening. So I have to be remembered. I have to start planning now how I want to be remembered. So that's the first thing. Second is core values, like understanding your core values and what are you not willing to do ever, and what are you willing to do? For me, my core values are candor, integrity, and gratitude. And anybody who knows me well, they get a piece of all of that every time they interact with me, because it's like, oh, Sam just says whatever he wants. He doesn't care too much about your feelings. Not that I don't care. It's just like, I'm going to say what I need to say and the best way that I can. And sometimes the best way that I can is not tactful.
So I would say that you care more. You care enough to have a tough conversation more than you don't care, right? Because Sure. It's easy. If you didn't care, you wouldn't have the tough conversation, because it's easier not to.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Right? Then I care a lot.
Yeah. I have a problem because sometimes I can be in that same bucket with you, but I say things to try to help people more than I think that they may want to hear them or not.
Yeah. And it gets funny in my family sometimes, on both sides, my wife's family and my family, because I just say what I think, and or at work or wherever, and you get pushed back and like, well, that's not what I meant. Even when I first met my wife, it was our third date and we were going mountain biking, and she doesn't really know me that well. She had already dealt with some abrasive conversations from me on our first date and our second date. So this is our third date. Well, we're mountain biking up this trail. So you have to pretend you're a bird looking at these two people mountain biking up. She's ahead. She's first time mountain biking in like 2 years. For me, I'd been going every week. So I'm in shape for this specific trail. She's not at all. She's slowing down. She stops. She leans back and she says, "Hey, Sam, you can go ahead. I'll meet you at the top of the mountain." She's just trying to be kind. And I just stopped my bike. I'm like, "What did you just say?" Like, is that really the type of relationship you're looking to get into? That when you're struggling, I'm going to ditch you. And when I'm struggling, you're going to ditch me. Because if that's the type of relationship, we can turn our bikes around and go home. Like, I'm not interested. And she's so shocked. She's like, what? That is not what I meant. I'm like, well, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything in life. So if that's going to be a principle in your life you're going to live by, I'm not interested. If you're going to change or you're willing to be more intentional, we can continue the date. Anyway, she's like, yeah, it's fine. We'll change. So anyway, love each other. Been married. Today actually is 5 years. The day we're recording this, December 11th, 5 years from the day I asked her to marry me. So,
oh, awesome.
Special day for me. But anyways, it's funny because like, that's just how I am. Like, candor is the way it is. Integrity. Are you living integrity with you and who you say you're going to be? I don't care what that is. Honestly, you could be the biggest scumbag ever. As long as I know that you're a scumbag and you've consistently fulfilled on what I know, like I'd rather just know who you are. And then gratitude. I'm grateful for every experience, even like when it comes to, I spent $50,000. How often did you spend money and you 6 months later or 3 months later or the day after, you're like, that was a waste, right? I definitely did not get what I got out of that. And the value that you choose to believe you got out of that, at least for me, is I learned never to do that again. I just am grateful that I had these experiences. I'm not bitter at anybody for screwing me over. I'm just like, hey, I learned something new about somebody. I learned this can be a pitfall, and then I move forward. So those are my core values. Then what really fulfills you, and then what are your objectives in your faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun? That's my structure. And then your results is how you want to be, like, that you're worth being remembered. And if how people are remembering you isn't in alignment with all of that, then there's a problem.
Yeah, you're working backwards in a very strategic way. And I'll give you, I've got a book that I'm writing now called Built for Exit. And it's about building businesses the right way. And one of the chapters is called What, Why, How, right? And so if you think about that, what do you want? You're kind of going through a strategic way to think about what it is that you want to end up, right? What if you're thinking about legacy, what do you want it to be? If you're thinking about a business, what do you want it to be? Right. And then you need a why, right? So what do you want? Now, why do you want it? I wanted to be retired at 39 years old. I didn't matter that I wasn't in any situation to ever be thinking about that. That's what I wanted. I said, you know what? I'm going to shoot big. Like, that's what I want to do. I want that. Why do I want it? Because I want to change my family tree. I want to leave a legacy for my kids. I lost my dad. Maybe my kids lose me. I don't know, but I want them to see that I lived for them to make it a better life for all of us. Right. And so I wanted that. That's what I wanted. Why did I want it? Now I had enough power to figure out how to do it. Right. Because that was my driver. That was a piece that, like, when your why is bigger than your can't, that's when you go do something. Right. And so if you say, if your why is bigger than your want, I would say there's probably even a better way to say that. And so I want this. Well, you have to figure out why, because that's the driver. Everybody I talk to, and say, hey, listen, how much money do you want? And almost the blanket answer is almost like $1 million, right? Oh, if I had $1 million, that'd be great, right? I'd be a millionaire. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like, well, do you have $5,000 in your bank? And they're like, no. I'm like, don't you want, like, you need a how, right? How are you going to get to $1 million? Why do you want $1 million? Well, I start thinking about, well, if I had $1 million, I wouldn't have to work at a job I could do, and I could go and be a volunteer. I could work in this field that I want to do. Like, you'd have this why. So you have to tie an emotional piece to it. And then you say, okay, now strategically, how do I get there? Right? I want the $1 million. Why do I want it? It's because it's going to give me family freedom to be able to do things with my kids, and I can leave a better life for them and whatever else it is, right? That driver. Now, how do you get there? And that's where you back things back out. If I want $1 million, when do I want it by? Right? Oh, I want it in 10 years. Okay, great. You need to get $100,000 a year, right? So how do I save $100,000 a year? I save $8,000 a month. I've got to make $2,000 a week and put away. Can you do that?
That's taxes and
yeah, that's savings, right? That's savings. Yeah. So if you think about that, I got to do a side hustle for $400 a day that clears me $400 a day. Can I do that? Well, yes, you can. Are you willing to do it? Now you have a real conversation with yourself and what life is, or the way that you want to structure things. And so there are other ways to the path, right? Building a business. Can you build a business and sell it for $1 million in 10 years? Well, yeah, you can. Mm-hmm. You can build up assets. Can you build a house? Can you buy a house? Can you buy, can you have passive income help build that $8,000 a month? Right. And so when you start you're putting pen to paper on these things, right? You're hitting, it was a rubber meets the road. You mentioned earlier your friend, and there's a saying for that, and you can't chase 2 rabbits or you'll catch none. Right. Yep. And so if you're deciding, look, I want this, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to own my own company. I want to be successful. Okay. Why? All right. How do I do that? That's where you have to start saying, well, am I personally capable of doing this without help? And if you're sitting there going, well, I don't know how to run a business, I don't know how to be a business owner, whatever that is, well, then start figuring out how to do it. Mm-hmm. Right? How are you going to figure out how to be a business owner? I'm going to start listening. I'm going to start having intentional listening. Are you watching videos? Like, do you watch Netflix for 3 hours a night, or are you watching YouTube videos of business titans and business owners and small business owners and how-tos and how to build, are you paying, are you paying for being able to work on your personal finances so that you can handle ups and downs of entrepreneurship, right? Right. And so are you working on your personal finances? Or do you have that under control? Do you have the budget? Nobody likes sitting down to do a budget, right? Nobody's like volunteering, like, yeah, this will be a blast. Let's do budgets, right? But if you want the business, you want to be a millionaire in 10 years, why you have the reasons to do that, that needs to be bigger than your, avoidance of doing a budget to your personal finance, because it's part of the avenue, right? It's part of the plan. That's where that how, what, and why come back full circles, because you need that driver, and you need to take away the excuses that you give yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's also you need to be honest with yourself in that process. Because I was having a conversation yesterday with somebody who's like, oh, you should have supplemental health insurance. You should have these different things. And I have this same conversation with people who say, oh, you should eat healthier. You should eat more. You should drink more water. You should exercise more. And there's all these things that would be ideal. And and it's not that I don't know that. I even know what to do. But the reality is the why isn't there enough. And so for me to even say that it's something that I want is really being dishonest with myself and just continuing to break down that integrity. And so it shocks people. I'm like, yeah, it's not important to me right now. I don't care about my health. I'm saying right now in this moment, I understand that, yes, all that's good. And for me, I don't care. And they're like, well, that's stupid. I'm like, oh, whatever. It is what it is. And I'm not so scared to be honest with myself about what's the truth. Now, you are, and that's okay. You do you, I'll do me. But for me, I'm not going to sit here and say something's important to me when I'm not acting on it.
It feels like a sham.
Oh yeah. My way of determining is who's more important, my family or my business. People are like, oh, well, family should be number one. Maybe it should be, but the reality is when I track my time, when I track my money, when I track these things, it's not family. I could sit here and say, oh, my family's so important. I go to work and I work 8 hours a day for my family. But the reality is, if my family was the most important thing to me, I wouldn't be at work 8 hours a day. I've spent more time with my family than I do at work. And that's just the truth, right? And you can say that the motivation is so that there's a time when your family is the number one. Cool. I'm cool with that. But to say that they are the number one and that's why you're sacrificing them, no, I just personally, I don't buy it. I think what's most important is what you're actually spending your time, money, and your value on. And if that's not your family, then it's not your family. Let's just be honest with ourselves.
It's almost like a should want, right?
Yeah, it's a should want, which is, I don't really love the should word, so I don't use it very much. I just would rather, because here's the thing. It's about. I know,
what you're saying is that when people say, I want, you were saying, I want to do exercise, right? Because I want to worry about my health, but you really don't.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a should want, you should want to worry about that. And you're like, but I don't, because it's not my focus. It's not my, where you put your money is where put your money where your mouth is almost like that saying, right? Yeah. So it's where are you putting your money? That's what you are chasing. Right. Yeah. And so if that's what's important and that's what you're chasing, and you're having that honest conversation in the mirror, here I was, I did the same thing, man. At 28 years old, I'm looking in the mirror going, you don't know how to run a company. And people would, from the outside, would be like,
you already had a
dude, you built $1 million business. Like, what are you talking about? Right. And I'm like, I don't know how to do it. I'm ashamed. I'm just literally winging it every day. And clearly I did the wrong things. Right. So I have to look in the mirror and say, you know what, for me to grow, for me to become what I want to become, I need to build a foundation. I need to build myself to become the person that everyone thought I was. Mm-hmm. Right. I needed that humbleness in my life at that time. You know, it's like people ask me, they're like, oh, you know, I do a lot of podcast interviews and talk to a lot of business owners. So they always come up and they're like, well, would you have changed it? And I'm like, now? No. Then? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't like sitting on that porch, like idealistically, like looking and being like, yeah, you know what, babe? Like, I'm pretty happy about all the things going on right now. Like, I'm really learning lessons, you know. It's not that way. It's a reflection of looking back to say, wow, you know, like, to say, well, no, that became a pivot and a turning point in my life because it shifted my mindset. And so I wouldn't change it because of that. I also would say that there's a good chance that the downfall would have been bigger and worse if it hadn't happened when it happened. Right. Mm-hmm. Because I had bad principles and I had bad foundation built on what I was doing. And so it was basically building a house of cards. And that's where I see the opportunity for people that are going into the business, you know, going to go into entrepreneurship, going to want to leave that legacy and going to come to it. Like, it's your responsibility to go seek the information that you need. And that piece of, you know, where the people say knowledge is power. It's not. It's knowledge plus action. Like, you have to go try that the imperfect action that you go take will be a better teacher to you than you ever writing the perfect business plan. Because I can guarantee you, I could give you a year to write a business plan, and I guarantee you within 6 months, there will be massive cracks inside of it.
Yep.
But if you expect that failure as part of the growth, you have to have the mindset of saying, okay, when things go wrong, I'm going to recognize them, be honest, and I'm going to shift them. Mm-hmm. And that is when you become an entrepreneur, like a true one. Is that it's not just like, you know, I walk in, punch the clock. I'm an accountant. I mean, you'll see a lot of businesses that get stuck, right? They hit these revenue numbers and they just get stuck, and they're like, well, I can't do more. And we're like, no, you can. You just can't do it the way you're doing it. You know, and so you have to continually check where you are. You have to continually start a plan about where you want to go, and you have to go make a plan of action of how you're going to get there. And so if you do that regularly, your success chances are astronomically higher than the people that don't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Could not have said it better myself. So if you want to reach out to him, where are you most frequently active? So is it Facebook, Instagram? But where are you most active? If somebody actually wanted to go and have a conversation with you or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Facebook is probably the best place. Facebook and LinkedIn. This year, 2021, I've got a focus coming out for Built for Exit. And so I'm looking for business owners that are not startup generally, more in the mid 6 figures to, low 7 figures type businesses that have gone through the steps of, I wanted to build a business because I wanted to make money. And once you start making money, all you want is your time back. And now you're kind of stuck in this entrepreneurial trap piece. And so there's some very actionable pieces that can come through there. And so, but if you've got general questions or anything, I'm more than happy to try and help out. It's in my nature. So
awesome. Love that. So this is Legacy on Rapid Fire starting now. What do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
I don't believe I'm being held back. So I am continually updating my legacy to move the goalpost farther and farther because I don't ever want to reach it.
Love it. And what's the hardest thing you've ever accomplished?
Hardest thing I've ever accomplished. That's a tough one. I would say the parenting. It's gotta be the word. And I haven't accomplished it yet. So I feel like that's one that's kind of there for me to continually challenge. I feel like the goalpost is getting moved for me by someone else all the time. So
sure. What would you say your greatest success at this point in your life is?
Parenting.
Yeah.
I love who my kids are becoming. I love that the fact that they're beginning life with an abundance mindset, purposefully. And so I'm going to be, hopefully, God willing, I get to watch and see what happens, with my own experiment of trying to keep their mindset that way.
Yeah. Love that. So, if you had one secret habit, mindset, or behavior that you think contributes most to your success, what would it be, and how can we adopt that into our lives?
Absolutely. So the best advice I can give you, I'll give you an entrepreneurial advice. Okay. So the best advice I can give you is do the hard things that you've been putting off, right? The big domino of the day. If you have an action in your head that you know you need to take that's going to move the needle 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever it is, do that first. Because everything else is noise. If it doesn't matter in 5 years, don't spend 5 minutes worrying about it, right? And so, but if it is going to make a difference in your business, that's what you do. You have to go out and do the things that make the difference. Because when you have those minimal growths, even if it's 1 a week and it's 1% a week, you're 52% better at the end of the year. And it's in that piece of taking the action on the one that you've been putting aside the whole time is a downfall of mediocrity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then if you had 1 or 2 books that you think we could all benefit from reading, what would you say those are?
I got to go back to the one that changed my life. And I've read it 3 times and I've gotten something different out of it all 3 times, which is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a fantastic way to unplug from the matrix in my mind. The second book that I would recommend, being the fact that I'm an entrepreneur, so I lean towards those types of books, is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The paradigm piece in there, the roadmap that it gives you on the ability to see how to affect things in your life is fantastic. Completely agree.
So next section, this is my favorite section, and that's actually why I started this podcast, is because I wanted to hear the answer to this question from as many people as possible in helping me develop my personal legacy. So it's kind of a selfish question, but I love it. So the question is, what legacy are you building? And so the way I determine this is in 6 generations from now. So this is your great grandchildren sitting around a dinner table, having a conversation about your life, the impact you had on your family, the society, and your community. What do you want them to be saying about your legacy 6 generations from now?
Well, I hope there's a big oil painting of me in some big oak-ridden boardroom type of deal. But no, so the way that I want to leave a legacy is I want to leave a legacy of cash flow. Right. And so through that, one of the ability to have assets by assets, it is perpetual and it can't be stopped. And so 6 generations from now, I want them to say that great Grandpa Cody, I guess, I don't know, started off this perpetual motion that changed our family tree to allow us to change the world in a better way. And so when I think of that, I buy rental properties and I want them to continually build cash flow, but they've been buy their own rental properties. And then it's a massive compound interest experiment. And so it's better than an 8% return in the S&P 500 and socking away a little bit of money. I've got other people paying my future generations inheritance. And that was when I sat down to do a legacy piece. That's what I backed into, was that I wanted to leave a portfolio of cash generation with instructions on how to continue to grow that consistently so that my family has the ability to be financially free and do the things that they want to do in their lives, because they're not for the chasing dollars, but because they're chasing the purpose.
Yeah. I think that having had 2 conversations with you now, I think that completely sums up who Cody is. And I'm grateful for your time and your willingness to take time out of your busy life and running multiple companies to share those nuggets with us. And remember, that you are worth being remembered. And we're excited to help you accomplish that on the Fuel Your Legacy show. We'll catch you guys next time. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.